welcome you all to our Women's Leading from Board and Beyond webinar that we have right now. I'm Mervin Weah. I serve as one of the board chair members here at the Northern Virginia Black Chamber of Commerce. It's my pleasure to introduce our organization. Couple things to note about us. We are dedicated in empowering Black-owned businesses and professionals throughout the Northern Virginia region by providing access to resource, education, advocacy, and meaningful connections. Our mission is to support the growth and sustainability of Black businesses by fostering economic development, creating opportunity for collaboration, and equipping our members with tools they need to succeed. Our vision is to build a thriving, inclusive business community where Black entrepreneurs and professionals have equal access to opportunities, capital, networks that drive long-term success. And at core, our goal is very simple, right? We're going to uplift, help you connect, help you grow, and advance our members. So if anyone here is not a member yet, I encourage you to join the Northern Virginia Black Chamber of Commerce. Very easy to do so. Join our chamber. There's a number of great, amazing things we're doing, not just now, but in the future as well. So we would love to welcome you to our chamber. Take full advantage of it. Now, I'd like to pass the introduction over to one of our very committed members. She's new to the region, has recently moved from Denver, and one of the first things that she did when she moved here is say, you know what? I gotta join the Northern Virginia Black Chamber of Commerce. Please join in me with welcoming Miss Trisha Allen.
Very much. I'm so excited to be here. Again, I am Trisha Allen. I am the executive director of a nonprofit called Together We Bake. We're an organization that helps women navigate various barriers to employment, and we're located in Old Town Alexandria. I'm super excited to be here to represent the Women's Committee and just want to tell you just a tiny bit about that committee. Our committee empowers Black women entrepreneurs and leaders by expanding access to opportunity, strengthening economic power, and cultivating a community of support, mentorship, and visibility. We champion the growth, resilience, and leadership of Black women across Northern Virginia by providing resources, advocacy, and collaborative spaces that advance business success, generational wealth, and collective impact. And now it is my honor to introduce our distinguished moderator. I have her bio with me, but I hope you get an opportunity to read the full bio because it is impressive. I'd like to introduce as our moderator, Tamia Gordon. She is a distinguished leader and keynote speaker. She is a nationally respected senior executive, jurist, and leadership coach with decades of experience across government, higher education, and the legal profession. She brings academic rigor, operational excellence, and empathetic leadership to her coaching practice with a clear mission to develop bold, clear minded leaders capable of shifting paradigms and shaping futures. Prior to her retirement from federal service, Tamia served as Chief Operating Officer for the U.S. Department of Energy's Loan Program Office, where she oversaw programs deploying innovative energy projects across fossil fuels, hydropower, solar, and advanced transportation systems. She previously served as Acting Director and Principal Deputy Director for the Office of Economic Impact, advising on community and economic effects of energy infrastructure while advancing STEAM initiatives, small business engagement, and regional economic development, particularly in the Gulf South. Earlier in her federal career, Tamia served as Deputy Vice Chairman and Veterans Law Judge, leading an organization of nearly 400 judges, attorneys, and professional staff dedicated to resolving veterans' appeals. In addition to that, she's also an adjunct professor of business law at Tulane University's Freeman School of Business. Family, please help me welcome Tamia Gordon. Tamia, take over.
Hello, and thank you, Trish. Everybody, I'm Tamia. I'm so happy to be here. Good evening. It is such an honor to serve as your moderator for today's Women's History Month panel. It's hosted by all of the amazing folks here, part of the Northern Virginia Black Chamber of Commerce. And I extend my own sincere appreciation to the Chamber, to its board of directors, and to the entire membership, quite honestly, for creating spaces like this that elevate the voices and foster the connection and strengthen our entire business community in the area. And so, your commitment to advocacy and collaboration, as well as economic empowerment, those things mark and make a meaningful impact across our entire region. And so, with that being said, much more importantly, I'd like to introduce our three esteemed panelists. They are phenomenal women who will have an opportunity to share their pearls of wisdom with us. Our first panelist is Tanya Poindexter. As you all know, she is a leader who exemplifies service and strategic impact. As the board chair of the Northern Virginia Black Chamber of Commerce, she is at the forefront of advancing opportunities for Black owned and underserved businesses across this entire region. And with over 2 decades of leadership experience at the FBI, Tanya brings literally disciplined, systems oriented approaches to solving complex challenges. She also always builds sustainable pathways for others to follow. She's also the COO for the Virginia Minority Chamber and the founder for The Right Touch LLC. Tanya is widely respected for her authenticity and her steady leadership, and she has unwavering commitment to empowering others, like all of us on the call here today. Next is Patricia Dinkins, and she is a dynamic real estate professional. She is also a community builder with more than 24 years of experience serving this area in Northern Virginia as well as other surrounding areas. She's also an AI certified real estate agent with Samson Properties, and she combines deep market expertise with innovative tools to guide clients through critical life transitions, including military families like I was. And she also serves as a membership chair for the Chamber, where she is instrumental in cultivating a vibrant and engaged business community. She is known for turning vision into action for her deep commitment and helping others to build stability, wealth, and legacy through the properties that they purchase. And finally, Candace Charles, she is our last panelist, but certainly not the least. She is an accomplished executive leader and the CEO and founder of CNC Management Consulting LLC. The good thing about her, well, there are many, but she specifically brings extensive expertise in human capital strategy, organizational development, and operations across federal, nonprofit, and private sector environments. I've had the opportunity to work directly with her, and I can tell you, with all of the years of experience that she has in supporting various missions from the Department of Defense to the Department of Energy, she has led so many complex workforce and organizational initiatives at the highest level. And she's currently on the board of directors as the chair of the Women's Committee for the Chamber. And so she's recognized for her ability to align people, strategies, and mission for outcomes that show her dedication to future leaders. So, you have some amazing panelists here before you today. And based on the timing, I'm looking at the timing now. We do have some prepared questions so that we can get the audience warmed up. And I'm excited to just jump right in. And so we'll start with the prepared questions and then we'll pivot and give everyone who's here an opportunity to ask questions as well. And once we get to that point, I'll let you know the scheme of maneuver. So, with that being said, panelists, very first question for you today, ladies. What inspired you to pursue board service, and how did you secure your first board seat? I'll start first with Candace.
So my introduction to board service was just simply being there. I was invited to a National Black MBA Association meeting by a classmate, and I attended quite a few meetings, and they had elections coming up, and the president of the chapter noticed that I attended quite a few events and said, "Hey, maybe you should join the board. We could use a recording secretary." Um, let it be known there are a lot of board positions that go unfilled. And so I started to talk myself out of it, but she said, you're here, you're dedicated, you seem passionate about the mission. Let's just start with recording secretary and taking the minutes. And so that's how I started.
Very well. Pat?
So for myself, I'll start off by saying I really did not pursue the board. My first board that I've ever been on. Um, People saw in me, sorry for the dog, people saw in me the quality that they thought would be a good person to be on the board. So several people came to me and said, "Oh, you're going to be on the board. You're going to be on the board." I'm like, "No, I'm not going to be on the board. I don't want to be on the board. I'm not going to be on the board." But then this go round when I was asked to submit my application to pursue a board membership. Um, I told Tanya that I was like, okay, I'm gonna put my application in. Well, before I put my application in, I'm gonna pray about it. Because, I was kind of like doubting myself as whether or not I could contribute to the board. So I said, I'm going to pray about it and I'll let you know in a few days whether or not I'm going to submit my application. So prayed about it, submitted my application, and here I am.
All right, Tanya.
Um, Much like these ladies, I find that you don't pursue a board position, it finds you. And the same thing happened with me. I was volunteering for the chamber for the chamber, and someone saw me who was Robin McDougall. She was the vice chair, and love her to death. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be on the board now. But she saw me. I was volunteering at an event, and I was writing for the chamber. And she asked me to work with her on Thrive Magazine. And a few months after that, she said, Tanya, I'm going to nominate you to the board. And so that's how I became a board member for the NVBCC. And it usually happens that way. You don't seek the position, the position finds you by being in the right spaces at the right time and being seen by the right people.
And that's such a good segue to the next question because it sounds like all three of you found yourselves volunteering in other opportunities, and somebody tapped you on the shoulder and recommended, hey, would you consider board service? So, with that in mind, how can aspiring women leaders identify and really prepare for not just meaningful board opportunities, but for service within the chamber? And Tanya, since we finished with you, I'll go right to you, ma'am.
Um, I think it actually starts even before you're considering
Mhm.
being on any board. It starts with you showing up in the right spaces. It starts with you being surrounded by the right people, making sure that you're in places where people can see how you work, how you make decisions. Are you in service-oriented positions? Because it's always going to be how you are authentically showing up. And if you're around the right type of people in the right groups, and you'll stand out if you are. So that's how you're preparing, not intentionally, or maybe it is intentionally because you're intentionally doing what you're supposed to be doing. But you're never purposely already thinking about being on a board. You're just showing up authentically, doing the work that you're supposed to be doing. And the right people will find you to put you on that board.
Thank you. And to our other panelists, either of you have additional pearls of wisdom you'd like to share with the group here?
I'll add,
Yes. Oh, I'll
oh,
let you go, Pat.
oh. So to piggyback on what Tanya said, showing up the right place, being a person of service, and really being your authentic self. Don't be fake or go around trying to be a a butt kisser, but be your authentic self, and people will recognize you, and they will um, open up doors for you.
And just to add to that, when you think of being on the board, the key word is board service, to be a servant leader. I would say if there's something that you're good at or passionate about, you can serve and make an impact on an organization that is aligned with the mission and goals for you. So you look at different organizations that their mission and vision is something that you're interested in. Like I'm interested in wealth building. So I make sure I show up and that I share my talents. and be of service to the organization.
Indeed. And you know what's interesting is everybody on the panel has served in multiple roles, in multiple boards. And so even though they weren't seeking out this opportunity, it came to them because they had that attitude of service. And so, with that in mind, please share with the folks here today what the key mindsets are that really do distinguish somebody who is value added to the board versus someone who maybe this isn't the right fit. And I'll come to you first, Pat.
Okay, I have a list here because I didn't want to forget anything. So you talked about mindset. So first, be a learner and not a performer.
Mhm.
Be bold, ask the uncomfortable questions, speak when things really don't feel comfortable, or speak when other people are reluctant to speak.
Mhm.
Be a humble board member. And remember, the word board member does not have an I in it. It's a team effort. Not only that, know when to speak and know when to shut your mouth because being on the board, um, you can't go out and tell everybody everything that's on the board because that's for the board. And it's like when you're in church, it's not good to know everything that goes on in church because if you knew everything that goes on in church, you'd be turned off. So the same thing with the board. If you knew everything that goes on with the board, you would be turned off. So as a board member, you need to know what to keep to yourself and what to share with the other members.
It sounds like what you're saying. The sausage making might not be attractive, but realize if you're coming to the board, you're going to have to make some sausage. All right, Candace.
Yes, so you definitely have to have an entrepreneurship mindset, but to be an impactful board member, I think there are three key things: clarity, curiosity, and commitment. Some of the skills I'm thinking of is strong communication skills. Um, Listening as much as you speak, as Pat mentioned. With boards, they are often charged with doing things that other organizations have to do, and they get to communicate day to day, but boards usually meet on a monthly and quarterly basis. So having that strong communication is extremely important to make critical decisions impacting the organization. And then also great board members offer their skills because they genuinely are invested into the organization.
Very good. Tanya, I yield to you on this last question, ma'am.
Well, I absolutely agree with everything that these ladies are saying because it's certainly true. But what I would add to it is a sense of responsibility
Mhm.
and being mission focused. A lot of people come into the board service thinking that, hey, I'm doing this for great branding, and they have a sense of I rather than a sense of us. So when you get onto a board or when you decide to serve on a board, you have to do it as a service, knowing that, it's for the collective. It's not about me. It's about I'm doing this for a bigger service. So especially for a nonprofit. So you're not going into this thinking for visibility's sake. It's truly mission. It's truly to serve others. So you cannot go into especially a nonprofit board thinking I'm doing this, it's going to be great for my career. You're doing this because it's really about the work. It's really about the mission, because there's going to be hard decisions that are going to be made. And if you're in it for the wrong purpose, you're going to just leave because you cannot commit to the purpose of the organization. So you have to be willing to be in it, to stay true to the mission so that we can make those hard decisions, so that at the end of the day, the organization can be here after the hard decisions have to be made.
Very well, and thank you. And I actually want to give a shout out to one of our participants who's putting notes in the comment because they're so helpful and complimentary. And so Elaine Kay is thanking you all for what you're sharing. And one of the things that really stands out about what she shared is the three C's: clarity, curiosity, and commitment. That's what you all are talking about as it relates to board service. And so Thank you for those comments, Elaine. And I'm going to pivot a little bit now, ladies, because we've been talking a lot about board service and what does it take to be service oriented and how do you really function in that environment. But we're going to pivot a little bit to leadership because that's what all of you are in your own rights. And so, as a woman of color, and more specifically, as a Black woman in leadership, how have you navigated spaces where representation for others who look like you might be limited? And Tanya, I'll start with you.
So, navigating those spaces, I have worked in the FBI for 21 years, and that's definitely a space that it was difficult to be a Black female trying to, have upward mobility within that space, but just showing up authentically. And, I've been in rooms where I was the only Black female, the only female, and then Black female in those rooms. It was never easy, but I showed up and with confidence. And confidence for me was key because if I went in there, shrinking and not being confident in my abilities and my skills and my talent, they would laugh at or not be confident in what I could bring to the table. So I wasn't always sitting at the table. Sometimes when I started going into the rooms, I would be at the chairs and behind. Eventually, I made it to the table, but I had to show up with confidence and being my authentic self. I didn't change who I was. I showed up as Tanya Poindexter,
Mhm.
confident in who I am and knowing what I could bring to the table. I will never shrink and I never will change for anybody to meet the mold that they wanted me to fill. I just showed up as my authentic self and brought the talent and skills that I knew I could bring to the table. And because of that, I was promoted to a higher levels within the agency and was able to take that outside and translate that to my own business, to board chair here, to COO at another organization, and another something else in another organization. So I could then translate those skills and talents in other places because of all the challenges that I met at the bureau.
Thank you. Pat.
Okay, to piggyback on Tanya, yes, you have to have confidence. But when you go into the room, walk in there like you belong in there. Don't think yourself no more higher than anyone else in the room, but equal to them. Because my thing is, if you're in the room, God put you in the room and you belong there. So walk in there, like I said, not like you own the room, but like this is where I'm supposed to be.
So Pat's kicking doors down. All right. How about you, Candace? What are you doing?
Oh, well, most of my career was with the Department of Defense. And as you know, that is a very white male dominated industry. So I had the fortunate opportunity to have supervisors that gave me their seat at the table to fill in for them. And, I always had the confidence because I hate to plug my family heritage, but in Jamaica, they've had female prime ministers. In other countries, they've had female prime ministers. In
Mhm.
Africa. So I know I belong. But however, you have to think about the quote that Michelle Obama gave in her documentary Becoming. She said she's been in very powerful rooms, boardrooms, G summits, and you realize some of the folks at the table are really not that smart. And over time, when I finally found myself into those senior executive rooms with flag officers and SESs, I'm like, well, they're not as smart as I am. I know just as much as they do. But also, Michelle Obama also said, when you get higher, you have to go higher. So it's very important that if you do get a seat at the table, you know your craft. You're coming prepared. You'll be surprised. One of the nuggets is that a lot of folks don't read. So I would say being a person of color, there's the tax. Being a woman, there's a tax. Being a person with a disability, there's a tax. So you have to make sure you bring your A game and be the representation that you want to see. And that means having information, knowledge about what's going on. Read the strategic plan, read those newsletters that no one pays attention to, read those emails and those pre-briefs before the meeting, because chances are you'll know what the leader is saying. I could predict right before the admiral is going to say something, what he's going to say, because I read some information beforehand. Um, you'll be surprised how many leaders don't read. And then just to give a little bit of levity, I always think about the Black Lady sketch show when they had the sketch. I know I'm going off course, where you walked into the room, where the characters walked into the room and the judge was Black and all the attorneys were
Black
Black.
lady courtroom.
Yes, yes. And so, I know it's possible, and that gives me the confidence that I know I belong. I know I belong to have a seat at the table.
Thank you for that. And I'm going to take you all a little bit away from the leadership aspect. And I want to talk about entrepreneurship because, as we know, over 300,000 Black women have lost their livelihood in the last year. And so, with that being said, what does that look like? It looks like a lot of women pivoting into entrepreneurship. So, with that in mind, you all are also entrepreneurs, as we talked about in your bio. So, I want to know, and I want the folks here sharing this meeting with us to know, how does your entrepreneurship influence your approach and your decision making while you're on the board?
I'll take that. I will say, being a good steward of financials, when you're an entrepreneur, a lot of the investments that you make into your business as a business owner, you have to watch your budget and stick to it. And that's, something you want to do, especially if you're working with a nonprofit. Budgets could be limited, so that both of those have a commonality where you're working to make sure you sustain the budget and are investing properly. But the most important thing is, if I'm going to spend money, I want to invest in the people. So for myself, I invest in myself in terms of professional development. I'm going to spend money to make sure I maintain my certifications and credentials, and then continue with professional development so I can be a better person to operate my business. And I think with also being on a board, making sure that you have the members of your organization first in mind in terms of investing in them. Mm-hmm. So that's how I marry the two of being an entrepreneur and how I do board service and some of the attributes.
Thank you. Pat or Tanya?
Yeah, for myself, in being an entrepreneur, you have to think outside the box. You can't look at the immediate situation. You have to look down the road. So as being an entrepreneur and a board member, I have to be able to think outside the box and how that best serves our members, as well as anticipating troubleshooting down the road.
Thank you, Tanya.
From my perspective as a business owner, I understand the challenges that our members are having as business owners. So I look at what they're doing as because I'm going through those same challenges. And so anything that I find that is related to my business, I'm relating that to my members. So any resources that I come across, I'm going to make sure that our members are able to get it, take advantage of those resources as well. We're all going through it together. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, hey, those members are doing that, but that doesn't affect me. It's affecting me too. So any challenge that they're walking through, I'm walking through those same challenges. So we're one and the same. I'm a business owner. They're business owners too. So we as board members, since we all have our own businesses too, we can relate. That's the whole purpose of the Northern Virginia Black Chamber of Commerce. We're all business owners together. So we are in this space because we relate with each other. We're in the same rooms. We all go through the same challenges together. That's the purpose. So anything that we can find, anything that we're going through, we're doing it all together. none of us are above each other. None of us are above each other. We're all walking the same walk together.
That's really beautiful. And I really do want to call out something that is a unifying theme. So, all of your leaders, all of your board members, all of your entrepreneurs. So, with that in mind, there are folks on this call who might be one or two of those things. And maybe they're wondering, well, how do I get, where Pat is or where Candace is or where Tanya is? So, ladies, if you wouldn't mind, talk about the role that mentorship and sponsorship played in helping you advance to executive roles and how others can hopefully get there as well.
Um, I, I'll just go out, and I think I kind of mentioned it at the beginning. It started with volunteering. I was seen by another board member. A lot of nonprofits, especially, you have to be sponsored by someone. It's not just simply applying. You have to be sponsored. You have to be seen. It's not just open to all. It's not just an application process. You have to be sponsored to be placed on a board. Same with NVBCC. You have to be nominated to be on the board. And that's how you get there for us. But so put yourself in those spaces, be seen by the right board members, volunteer. If Robin McDougall didn't see me, and I consider her a mentor, it wasn't, formal. She's an informal mentor, but she's a great lady. And I wish she was here tonight because she's on the women's committee. But she helped, lay the path for me, which I think everybody should look to someone who can inspire them in the future, but be sponsored by someone, at least for our board, or nominated by someone to get on the board, or not our board, but someone on another board if you have another board in mind.
All right, Candace or Pat?
Everyone needs a coach these days. They say even the biggest sports person has a coach. So in order to, get on the board or, whatever, you have to have somebody to guide you. We all need guidance along the way. We can't do this job by ourselves. So you need someone to pour into you, to steer you in the right direction.
Excellent. Thank you. Candace.
As mentioned earlier, I've been fortunate enough to be in spaces where I was supervised by Black women who gave me the opportunity and coached me. So I would say networking and making sure you take advantage of coaching and mentorship.
Very good. Well, of course, I agree with that as an executive coach. So I do think there's value in coaching, and I'm happy to hear that you all not only feel strongly about it, but have benefited from it as well. And so now, ladies, I'm actually going to challenge you because you all are board members here, right? And so talk a little bit about how boards can create more inclusive pathways for women leaders. And let's see, Candace, I'm going to start with you, ma'am.
Sure. I would say number one, having a women's committee or making sure that there's programming focused for women to attend. And then most importantly, representation. When you see others in a space of leadership, you feel that it's easy. And yes, I could join the board. I could potentially be board chair one day like Tanya or president of an organization. So I would say definitely look into organizations having an ERG or women's focused programming to invite and whet the appetite of members trying to participate and become familiar with the organization. And in turn, that will lead to them wanting to contribute and possibly serve on a board.
Very good. And since you mentioned Tanya, Madam Chair, please.
Yeah, I actually piggyback off of what Candace said. Actually, I was going to say some of those things similar. In creating opportunities for growth within those organizations. I'm the first female board chair that our organization has had. And we had the first full executive committee that were all females for the first time ever in this organization. So if we can continue to create those type of opportunities for women, hey, let's do it. I don't want to be the last one. So
Mhm.
not only am I the first, but I will not be the last. And that's why we need to continue to bring more women on the board and give them opportunities to grow, to stay here, to see the work that we're doing and see,
Mhm.
hey, we're doing a lot of good in this region, but we need more people to come behind us to continue this work. Because I'm not going to be here forever, and that's why I keep bringing on these wonderful ladies to continue this legacy.
Great
Hint,
job,
hint,
ma'am.
hint, hint.
Yes, ma'am. Pat.
I just want to add my little 2 cents in. So Tanya was talking about opportunities for women, but it doesn't always have to be restricted to women because there are positions that men held that women can be placed in also. So basically, just open up opportunities. They may not be leaders of the board, but we can open up other opportunities of being co-chair of a committee or co-chair of an event coming along. So that way it kind of lays the groundwork for them to be leaders on an extra level.
Very good. Very good. Now, to our audience, I want to share with you this is the last prepared question that I'm going to ask, and then I'll open it up to you. But this one is really, I think, so critical because it's important for us to hear from our board members. And so, ladies, what legacy do you hope to create through leadership, both in the boardroom and in the community? Madam Chair, I'll start with you.
Well, I just spoke about the legacy of
Mhm.
making sure that there's more women that follow
Mhm.
behind me in this position because I feel like that's important. But other than that, I want to make sure that this organization. So one thing that my predecessors, who were men, but I still, take their advice. But
Mhm.
they always tell me make sure that before I leave this organization better than I did when I found it. And easier said than done. You think, oh, easy, but so much happens within your time as chair. But I want to leave a good legacy behind, and there's so much behind this statement, but just with a lot of transition that we've gone through over the last few years, I just want to make sure, and I know it's a big statement, that I just leave it better off than it was when I found it. And that's a heavy statement from the my predecessors, but it's a lot. It's a lot. So,
It's a lot.
and have some more females on the board as well.
We're already doing a phenomenal job, ma'am. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And Pat, I'll come to you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. So my legacy I'd like to leave in business and the boardship is if Pat took the time to walk in her purpose and to share it with others and to take others and help them to grow and be their authentic self and to walk in their purpose, I can do that too. If she believes, meaning myself, if she believes that she was blessed to be a blessing and God put into her certain characteristics to help others, I can use the same characteristics that He's put into me to help someone else too. So if she can do it, I can do it.
Excellent. Excellent legacy to leave as well. Candace.
Yes, I would like to leave the legacy of servant leadership,
Mhm.
leading with purpose, humility, and genuine desire to elevate others. I think of Mary Church Terrell. She was one of the leaders of the National Association of Colored Women. Her historic motto is lifting as we climb.
Mhm.
And so I would like that to be my legacy, to bring someone up behind me.
Outstanding. Thank you. And ladies, thank you for those great pearls of wisdom that you've shared. This does conclude our prepared questions. So now I have an opportunity to open the floor for Q&A for all of the audience. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome all of your questions and I want to give you options because people are different. So if you want to submit your question in the chat, feel free to do so, but you're also invited to come on camera and ask your question directly. Now, if your question is one that you want to direct to a particular panelist, please let us know so we can focus in on that person answering the question directly. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how our board members respond while they're in the hot seat, because they've already given us a lot of good information. And so now is an opportunity for you all to really ask what you want to know. So I know there were some questions in the chat earlier, so I want to scroll back up and see where we are. One of the questions looks like it was from Trisha Allen. And she said, as I recruit for board members, potential board members are often concerned about the fundraising responsibilities. And so, and I'll direct this one to Tanya. How do you help to ease this concern as you, as board members, help in the recruitment process? So, Tanya, I'll pass that to you, ma'am.
So yes, our board members also do have a financial responsibility as well. However, if they're able to pull in a sponsorship instead, that can also cover their financial responsibility as well. However, we try to be a little bit lenient if anybody ever has an issue with their financial, we will spread it out over the year. So each year they have a financial responsibility. If they can't meet it all at once, they can spread it out over the year, or they can pull in a sponsorship that'll cover it for them. So there's many ways to tackle that beast.
Yes, ma'am. And are you at liberty to say what the sponsorship level is or the
Oh,
amount?
yes, I'm sorry, it's $2,000 for a board member.
And is that for a 1-year term or something else?
1-year term.
Okay, very good. All right, scrolling through. So let's see. VR asked the question, will the recording be sent to all attendees?
Yes, we're recording it, and we can make sure it's we'll add it to YouTube.
Okay, very good. Let's see. Elaine K makes a comment. Some of the best accountants, female entrepreneurs, can be found at the small best owners at local farmers markets. That's true. And let's see. How about those that wish to lead within the crowd, be a support, but not be on stage? And so I'll pass that to Candace because I know she's not always in the spotlight, but she is someone who is a strong supporter from both the foreground and the background. Candace.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, ma'am. So those folks who want to lead from within, if they want to be a support but not on stage, what recommendations do you have for those kind of folks?
Communicate your desires to contribute. There are, I'll give an example. We have some folks who are passionate on crafting and honing on their photography skills. They want to branch out and be a photographer. They can offer to help with taking pictures and videography for events. I think it's important that you speak up your desires and what you're capable of doing and how you can contribute.
Okay, very helpful. I'll take one more here and then I'll go to the virtual hand that's raised. And so let's see, Brandy Took says, leaning on your time in the government, how do you protect your peace while leading in high pressure environments? So I don't know that there's a specific panelist she's asked for. So who wants to jump on that one?
I didn't hear that one because I was busy trying to keep in my mind to piggyback on the last question.
Did you want to add something?
I was waving at you and stuff like
but I apologize. I think because y'all I keep seeing you go on and off the big screen, so I'm never able to see the smaller screen. So maybe we
problem.
Yeah, if we could put all three panelists up there and just leave them there for now, that way they'll be there. And so, Pat, please go ahead and share what you were going to share about the last question.
Yeah, about the last question. For someone who does not want to be in the forefront, but wants to still be active and lead, with NVBCC, we have committees that people can join, and that way they can still make a difference in the organization. So you don't always have to be in the lead. I understand that because I was the type of person who never wanted to be in the lead also, always, great support and all that. But, sometimes you get elevated. But like I said, we have committees that people can join if they want to still help the organization to grow and improve on the organization.
So, and it sounds like what you all are saying is just make it known, raise your hand, join a committee, talk to your mentor, your sponsor, somebody who's part of the organization and let them know because sometimes there might be things that need to get done that maybe you're the one to do them. So, thank you all for sharing that. And so, Tanya, I'm going to pass this question to you. Leaning on your time in the government, Brandy asks, how do you protect your peace while leading in high pressure environments?
So that's a great question, and whew, I wish I really knew the best answer for that because I never know that I ever did protect my peace while leading there. Because I had executives calling me. We had the Blackberries, and after that, and I had people calling me at 8, 9 o'clock at night and early in the morning. So I don't know that I ever did protect my peace at the FBI in the government. Probably one of the reasons why I'm no longer there. But I did find a good balance at some point, and it's because I had to put myself first and my family first, and I knew when to draw the line. At some point, I just turned the BlackBerry off or the smartphone that came afterwards, and I knew where to draw the line, and they knew at some point where they had to stop calling me for every little thing. And, as I became the boss, I became the one to delegate to the people who needed to do the job and not to try and handle so much on my own. So delegation is a real true thing. And that's really, I think, how my peace eventually came is knowing that I didn't have 11 arms. I couldn't handle everything. And I needed to work with the people that I was assigned, who were assigned to me to take on this heavy load. And, we don't, as leaders, we don't have to do everything. We're not supposed to do everything. We need to trust those around us to do the work with us, not for us, but with us. We're a team for a reason. And I think that's really truly when my peace, I had to talk it out, but that's truly when my peace came is, when I realized that it wasn't, the world wasn't didn't need to rest on my shoulders, work with all those around me.
So, Tanya, I'm going to push just a little bit and say, when did you know that you had to pivot and protect your peace? Because it sounds like you've been in a leadership position for a long time. But when did you finally decide to prioritize yourself?
So, we're getting a little personal,
Well,
but
I don't want to get too personal,
no, no,
but
we're not. I'm
okay.
sorry. We're not getting that personal. But so I had been in a leadership position for a long, long time.
Mhm.
And I did have subordinate people who worked under me, but I was still doing a lot. Be, just it's just who I am. I always carry a heavy, heavy load. Still at the FBI, but whew, towards, later within my career, I was having some health issues.
Mm.
And that is what told me, hey, Tanya, you need to, delegate a little bit more in order to get these things done, in order to make sure you're making you're not going to just, be in the hospital a lot more often. You just need to let some of this work go, which is, what I ended up doing. I delegated a lot more of my work and, was a lot more at peace. So health reasons is really what pushed me over.
Thank you for allowing me to push a little bit and thank you for sharing that personal bit of
Absolutely. No.
information. And Tanya, even as you're talking about it, it's going to be more helpful than for people to have heard that because then they can maybe get a clue. Don't get to the point where your health is at risk
Mhm.
before you prioritize yourself. So thank you for that. And I'm actually going to pivot because I see VR has her virtual hand raised and has been patiently waiting. So, ma'am, if you would come off mute and ask your question.
Yes, it's Victoria. Thank you so much. You're right. I have been waiting patiently, specifically because I heard everybody talking about the importance of good mentorship. And in particular, I heard Pat talking about how it's important to have good people pour into you. So, my question for Pat is, are you open to a mentee?
Yes, I
Hey.
I am because I've been a mentor for the real estate company that I work for. I've been a mentor for other new real estate agents, and I'm also a credential life coach. So yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. I will put my information in the chat now.
Okay.
And the good news is, I know Tanya has already shared with us, she's going to make sure that all of our information is sent out to you all. So I know Pat may not have an opportunity to grab it out of the chat, but do follow up with her directly once you receive her contact information and let her know how excited you are to get mentorship from such a dynamic lady. And yes, Pat.
So one of the things we have been talking about in our board meeting is establishing a mastermind for people to come together and brainstorm, and also I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, Tanya.
Uh-oh.
So a program to help those who are entrepreneurs but are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur. So I don't know if I'm supposed to spill that out, but now look, now we got to do it since I talked about it.
You spilled the beans, ma'am.
Yes.
You may be the one leading that now, Pat.
Mm. It's like you raised your hand, now you're voluntold. See what you did
Yeah,
there, Pat?
exactly.
Well, thank you for that question, Victoria. And so I'm going to turn, we've got a question here from Judith Lambert, and she wants to know, have you had imposter syndrome as a board member? And if so, how did you handle it? She wants actually all of you to answer that question.
I'm sorry, my mic is off. No, I have not had imposter syndrome because I believe in being myself. And, everybody's not for everyone, and we all have different gifts and talents. So if I would fall into the imposter syndrome, I wouldn't be who I am or who I was created to be.
I would agree with Pat. As mentioned before, I've seen examples of women in leadership, and I know how hard I work to get to where I am in leadership. So I didn't have any problems with imposter syndromes. And, again, looking in the room, I saw, other people are not as smart. Your Toms, your Bobs, your Bills, your Johns. You're just as smart as them or smarter. So never had a problem with that.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't have a problem being on the board. I was on the board a while and I was communications chair. I don't think I wasn't prepared to be the board chair. I didn't have my set sight on being board chair. I was just happy in my nice little world of being comms chair on the board. And when someone said, "Hey, Tanya, be board chair," I was like, "What?" So it's not that I had imposter syndrome. I just wasn't, I don't think that it was because it wasn't in my line of sight. I wasn't ready, but I got ready real quick. So it's not that I didn't think that I could do it. It's just, I wasn't ready, but I got ready as soon as they said, "Okay, you're board chair now." So, but I've been doing it. I feel like we're doing a great job. We are growing as an organization. So, not imposter syndrome, but once I'm in the job, I roll with it and I grow with it.
Very good information in response to that question. And I will say, even learning about imposter syndrome, I had said once to one of my clients that it's difficult to imagine, especially as a Black woman, having imposter syndrome, because to hearken to what Candace said on the tax that we have to pay to get into every room where we are already far surpassing in a lot of our peers in education and experience and all of the things that we bring to the table. So I think what Tanya's saying is it wasn't imposter syndrome. It was just like, wow, this is yet another thing for me to get in here and roll my sleeves up. So kudos to all of you for what you've done to really be the example for others to follow. And so we have time for one more question, and it looks like Dr. D. Allen has her hand raised. Ma'am, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you, all of you, for sharing your wonderful stories with us and just gracing us tonight with this ebony of excellence. I know I just landed in the right space tonight, and I just really needed this. So thank you. My question is, research shows that women of color are more likely to be appointed to leadership roles during the time of crisis. This is known as the glass cliff. Has this ever happened to any of you? And if so, how did you protect your professional reputation when you were brought in to solve systemic issues that you didn't create?
Outstanding question.
That's
Who
an
wants to
excellent
go?
question. I would say in the work that I did or do, I acknowledge what was there beforehand and then look at the pathway forward of fixing things. And I always refer back to policy, and make sure you stick to policy, you stick to integrity. And, sometimes you do have to be very vocal and say, okay, this was before my time. I'm here now. This is the way we're going to do it. We're going to follow policy. Um, Sometimes that can't work. Sometimes the crisis may be so damning that, but I would say when I was faced in a situation where I had to come in to be the person to clean up the mess, just be very vocal about, okay, well, here are the facts, make sure you have an accurate timeline and say, this is the way we're going to moving forward
Thank you.
and stick
Pat.
to policy.
Oh, yes, thank you. Pat. Uh-oh, if you're speaking, we might not hear you. I'll push to Tanya and we'll come back to Pat to close us out with that.
So in my situation, when I was brought in to clean up, there weren't, I love Candace because you rely on policy. I'm a policy person too. There were no policies. I had to create those policies, and which is why they brought me in to clean something up. And this is, in a couple of different spaces, FBI being one, but there were no policies. So I had to create policies, to create processes, to create a foundation for them to fix it. And because I was able to create that, now being at one agency, I didn't receive a lot of accolades for that. But that was okay. I did get a promotion, but no real accolades and, certifications or certificates or anything like that. But a thank you was nice. But they were able to create something after I left that is still standing today in a more glorified way, because of the foundation that I was able to create for them. So it happens all too often because of the things that we go through and when we're called in.
Excellent. And Pat, close us out, please, ma'am.
Close you out. So we thank everybody for coming.
Oh, no, with the answer to that question.
Oh. Okay. I've never been in a position where I had to be a cleanup woman at work. I have, and somebody put in the chat what also happens in our households. I've been a cleanup woman in my household, but not in a work environment. So if I relate to being a cleanup woman in my household, you just get in there and do what needs to be done. Handle your business.
Handle your business. Well,
Yep.
ladies, thank you. Thank you to our incredible panelists. Ladies, you have shared outstanding wisdom. You've talked about your journeys, your leadership, and you've brought such authenticity to us here today. And on behalf of the Northern Virginia Black Chamber of Commerce, thank you for being a part of this important dialogue. We encourage you to remain engaged with the Chamber as we collectively drive impact and opportunity forward. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm now going to pass it back to Pat Dinkins. She's our membership chair, and she's going to wrap up and tell you about some upcoming events. It has been my honor to serve as your moderator. Thank you very much.
Now I can close out, right?
Yes, please.
Well, once again, I'd like to thank, you guys also for being here and participating and taking your time out this evening. I am the membership chair. And if anyone on here who is not a member of NVBCC, or someone who would benefit from this, please do not hesitate to become a part of this great organization. I've been a member for 4 years. I always tell people, and you'll hear me say this again. Initially, I was hesitant to become a member because, as we all know, sometimes Black folks can be kind of bougie and uppity and all that kind of thing. So, Dr. Nicole, I'm telling the truth. But this is a great organization. like I said, I've been here for 4 years, and if it was not great, I would not be spending my time and my efforts and money of being here. So if you know of anybody who wants to be a member or could benefit from being a member, please have them become a member. On April 9th, there will be a virtual orientation, and at that orientation, you can learn more about NVBCC, how you can become involved and get the most out of your membership.
Thank you, Tanya. Anything to close us out?
I will speak on behalf of the Women's Committee. I want to thank you for attending our first event of 2026. And we have great programming. We recently had a Women's Committee call, and we're excited about what we're going to bring for you in the future of this year. We plan to bring programming every quarter. We want to focus on some of the core things that may interest you, like your workplace and leadership, like we did today, health, education, and helping with entrepreneurship. We're currently in the planning phases of trying to do something for Women's Health Awareness Month in May. So please stay tuned. Make sure you're on our mailing list. Make sure you check out our calendar of events. And if you're interested in joining the Women's Committee, please feel free to reach out to me. And thank you again. I hope the information that was shared was very useful. And I hope the takeaway is, make sure you lift as you climb and give someone else pull a chair up for someone else to have a seat at the table with you.
Tanya.
Thank you, everyone. And I'm going to keep it short and sweet. We appreciate that you all came to join us this evening for this wonderful panel discussion. We hope you guys got some great insight out of it. We will send out information as a thank you for joining us. You'll have everyone's bios that were on the panel this evening so that you can reach directly out to everyone, their contact information, and we'll make sure that you get a link to the YouTube video for this event this evening. You can contact us at any time. We appreciate you, your members, and we are here to serve you. So thank you all, and we hope you have a wonderful and blessed evening. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Take care.
Good night.